Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to D-Backs Dispatch. We're here to talk about another series win against a divisional opponent. So, it's like a double win in my books. If this is your first time on the channel here on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future content here. We are a local Diamondbacks podcast. We do series recaps. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow and subscribe to there, along with Spotify. If you're watching us on Twitter/X, thanks for joining us. Make sure to go ahead and hit that follow button. We are very active on Twitter, like very, very active, mainly courtesy of our main goat, that is Gabe, and our graphics extraordinaire, that is Josh. We may not allow Brett to do game tweets anymore. I'm just going to say. And mine are very basic, to the point tweets. So, everyone, thanks for tuning in. We just had a 3-game series against the San Diego Padres. So, this game was interesting. To be honest, I know things happened in the first 8 innings, but the 9th inning and the 10th inning is literally all I care about. Unfortunately, Slade struggled again. Something you don't want to see. Went 4 2/3, 8 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk, 2 Ks. Offense decides to finally show up in the 9th. There's a couple of big stories from this game, so it's really hard to pick out what's the big one. But we'll go ahead and get into that. But let's just go ahead and talk about the craziness that was the 9th inning. So over the team's last 10 games here, I believe you got this. The last 10 games, we've scored 24 runs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. In the 7th, we scored 6 runs. 8th is 4 runs. Again, this is as of Friday. We've scored 14 runs in our last 10 games in the 9th inning. We had 6 in game 1. But we're 5-5 in those 10 games. 500. So it's kind of a bummer.
It's now 21 after game 3, by the way. And this last
okay.
It's even more insane. But obviously before game, this is right after game 1, so.
Yeah. And then 5 of those came in a blowout loss and didn't make the game, really didn't change the outcome of the game. 2 of those were losses, and we'll get into the reason, unfortunately, why. But it is some encouraging things to see going forward. Offense is not the lie down and die Diamondbacks. They are the answer backs. But after being held off the board for 7 straight innings, the Diamondbacks decided to come back and put up 6 runs in the 9th inning, and they were courtesy of young king Alec Thomas with his beautiful grand slam with the bases loaded, and then Randall Grichuk decides, I'm going to pinch hit, and I'm going to hit one too. So we take we were down 7-2. We end up taking an 8-7 lead. Now, we end up losing the game. But, Gabe, do you feel that we might be getting closer to the answer backs from last season?
I'm almost there. I think I need to see it a couple more times just because it is division rival, so there's an extra bit of fighting them for stuff like that. And like Oscar says, it's starting with the bottom of the order, which is something that we've talked about before, about even though technically Alec and Perdomo probably aren't going to be big sluggers or anything when they come back, but they do take a lot of pitches and they do draw a lot of walks, which is something that we haven't really had from the bottom of the order. It just hasn't been a consistent group of batters. They don't really have a rhythm, which is something weird to say in baseball, because unlike in basketball, soccer, every other sport, you need rhythm to get along. And with the D-backs, this whole year, it kind of just felt like they were out of rhythm, out of sync. One guy would be okay, the rest wouldn't. And with Alec and with Perdomo, and I believe Brett took out some stats about it. Like, this is a different team. Like, they're starting to play like the way they did last year, especially towards the end of the games. In the playoffs too, it was Alec and Perdomo that was starting up everything. Like, this is a different team. So, okay, so Brandon has a stats, so we'll get into that in a bit. But I think it could be back if they do it. Once or twice against the Braves and then the Blue Jays. I think like the answer backs are back.
Yeah, and we talked about this before the Dodger series that like the next 2 weeks were very important. They're off to a very good start in these first two series at 4-2. Like that is exactly what I wanted to see. Win both series. Because if you continue to win a series and you keep doing it series after series after series, next thing you know, you're between probably 6 or 7 games over 500. And then at that point, then we can start to feel, because a lot of people are very up and down emotionally with this team after every single game. And that is not me like saying about one person. There's a good portion of the fan base that does that quite a bit, which they're very invested in this team. So I don't blame them. But Brett, how do you feel? Like, what do you think is the contributing factor, or like as to why this offense lately has been scoring so much in the last third of the game, the 7th, 8th, and 9th?
I think a little bit might have to do with kind of like what Gabe was saying with it being a divisional opponent. Divisional games are always a little more of a tough battle, especially this year. The Padres ahead of the Diamondbacks in the wild card, and they're even in the division. So we're looking to try to jump them before anybody. So I feel like they play with a little more energy when it's a divisional rival, but it's still just, I think it's just the entire team. Like Oscar said in the chat, the bottom of the order is setting it up. We'll get into it in game 3, but Domo had some good at-bats in game 3 alone. In the entire just series, like in game 2, they made Waldron gets like 80 pitches in like the 4th or 5th. Kind of made him work a little bit. But, didn't put up too much against him that I would have liked. But, we've seen more signs that I think just the entire offense isn't fully relying like on just Cattell. They're not going, oh, Corbin's not rolling, so I'm not going to be rolling. Now that just everybody, they're like, you know what? I don't need to come up here and hit a home run. I don't need to be the guy that, like, even Gino, we're seeing more walks out of him. He's not swinging and missing at every single thing that he possibly can. He's just working good at bats a little bit. Not every time, but I think it's just we're seeing that more consistently from the entire team, because that's kind of what led to that comeback in the 9th. Like, to put up 6, like, we don't see that. Like we've talked about before, this team has not put up like really any runs in late innings, and that's kind of why when I did that stat digging, I was trying to stay positive after that game 1 loss. Look at the bright side, be Mr. Glass half full, and that was encouraging. It, especially alone the 14 runs in like 6 in that one or in the 9th alone. But you take that out, that's still 6 in the 7th, 4 in the 8th, and then 8 in the 9th across their last 9 games before that. That's still good signs. Yes, some of them were in blowout games and whatnot, like I stated in the tweet, but it's still just nice to see in general that the bottom half of the lineup is just doing their job, to where just getting on base. The bottom half of the lineup is not there to hit home runs, to hit gap shots. Like, it's nice when they do, but they're there to just try to get on base, turn the lineup over for those guys at the top half, and they've been doing that more successfully in the last like 6 to 10 games.
Yeah. But we had, and it's still a quite scare, Randall Grichuk pitch hitting for Ketel Marte in the 9th, and everyone was like, "Oh, what, Torrey? What are you doing?" And my thought was like, "There's only one reason Torrey is pinch hitting for Ketel Marte," and we got that confirmation after the game via Jesse Freeman of PHNX D-backs. Ketel had lower back tightness. It's been lingering for a while. Marte is day-to-day. He didn't play the rest of the series. Torrey said, though, he is hopeful that Ketel will play on Monday. I thought he hurt his lower back in this game. It wasn't in this game. Like, it had been something that he had been like Jesse said in his tweet, a lingering issue
I believe there was a game there with the Athletics where he
Yes,
took a
Torrey
hard
said
swing
that.
and then he was like kind of
Yeah,
just
so Torrey said that he wanted to sit him against the A's on that Sunday game, but they had to win the series. I was like, oh, so he's learning, because we know in months past there were a couple series like that where he would have sat Cattell just to get him rest, but we needed to win the game. So I'm glad that he's learning. Okay, I can't sit three of my best guys at the same time, because it's like this offense is completely different. So, but hopefully it's not too bad there for Marte. But I definitely know I got worried until I figured out what the injury was. I'm like, okay, so it's like it's not good, but it's not like, oh my gosh, he's out for a couple of weeks, because then I'll be like, it's one thing after another. I swear. Like this season, it's always been one thing after another. So, but let's go ahead and go on to our second topic, which y'all, this might go a while. Paul Sewald, his last two outings have not been great. Have not been great whatsoever. He blew game one against the Dodgers, and he blew game two here against the San Diego Padres. And it's not we need to worry about the sky is falling just yet, definitely. But it is a concern, because May through June, he was stellar. 18 games, faced 59 batters, a OPS of 336. That's phenomenal. Like that is amazing. July, he's faced 8 batters. The OPS is 2.607. And what's happening right now is a lot of hard hit contact. And that's not surprising to me, because that's what he's always been. He's always had a low 90s fastball, but I think his other stuff is not working right now. So they're able, and that's why he would always get swing and miss on his fastball, is because his sweeper was working. Guys were trying to make sure to get the sweeper. If that's not working, they're ready for that 91 mile per hour fastball. But again, the sky's not falling yet, and Paul is not going to lose, no matter how much D-backs Twitter wants him to be gone after 2 blown saves. He's not. He's still the closer, because he was perfect in his 11 prior save appearances. So we can't just completely remove him. This happens with closers all the time. They go through a rough patch for a week or two, and then they do well. Like the Padres closer, Suarez. He had been dominant all year. He gave up that grand slam to Alec Thomas. So they are human. They do mess up. However, Gabe, how concerning are some of these, just how he's looked his last 2 outings?
I think there's 2 things at play here. Like I'm in the side of, the nerd stats and also the eye test, and I value both of them, because there's gonna be times where the stats won't show everything, and also like the eye test won't show everything either, because there's gonna be plays where you're like, okay, well, he got the out, but then if you look at the advanced statistics, like, oh yeah, but in this very specific play, if there was anyone else there, that would have been an easy double or whatever. And I mostly just went back and looked at the last 2 save opportunities that he had before these 2 blowups. So against the A's, he made pretty quick work of 2 of the guys, but the last out was a very, very hard line out to Kevin Newman, the shortstop. He played it on a really, really good hop, and he was perfectly positioned. I think anyone else there that could have easily extended the inning, but it was a very, very hard out. And then against the Twins, Buxton had a double, and then the last out was a screaming liner to Gurriel, and I believe that's the one where Torrey said after the game, like, he thought that was going to drop or that was going to be a hit, but Gurriel was playing a lot more shallow, and he was shaded to his left, I believe, so he was perfectly positioned for that. He wasn't like that's obviously advanced scouting. Also, could be just Gurriel too, just the way he plays. He plays a stellar outfield, but it was definitely one of those where I was like, oh shoot, like the ball came out of the bat, and I was just like, oh, and then yeah, Gurriel was somehow right there. So there's definitely certain things like when it comes to the eye test, where you're like, oh, that normally should have been a hit, right? And then you look at the advanced stats, and it's like, the expected batting average is very high sometimes. I believe on the Baseball Savant page, he's just not the same pitcher he was last year, which is to be expected to a certain extent. He is a year older. It's slightly different now, but it is something I want to keep an eye on. I'm not like blindly following whatever who Seawald is. It's like I'm not going to say he needs to be taken out immediately, but I think it's time to start giving certain guys opportunities, like Thompson, like Ginkgo, like Martinez, like start giving them opportunities just in case Paul Sewald can't get the outs because he faced three batters. This last time against the Padres, he faced three batters. So in that case, okay, there's literally no way you can take him out. But against the Dodgers, he faced like 5 or 6. He couldn't even get an out. Like everyone just kept hitting him around. And if let's say they have the same opportunity
Dodgers,
again,
it was 5, I
they
believe.
faced five batters, didn't get a single out against them. They were just hitting him really hard.
No. So
the Dodgers he got 2 outs. And
yeah,
then
he got
that's right. It was
so he
had
struck
5
out
straight.
Lux,
It was 5 straight hits.
Otani, and then the double, single.
Yeah, it was
Padres, it was just bad. Like it was homer, walk, homer. It was not good.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Then I was conflating them all together. But yeah, it's like I feel like he was getting very lucky at times throughout the season. I know he had like all those saves. So he got a bit lucky in some of them, and he's not striking out the way he was last year. I mean, even last year, me and you, Brandon, we were at the game against the Rangers where Corey Seager probably should have had extra bases, if not an infield home run, not infield, in stadium home run or whatever.
Inside the park homer.
We were inside the park homer. Yeah, the one that Alec made, that crazy catch.
I think that was Simeon. But still,
Simeon. Point is,
it should have been, but Alec made the defensive D-backs play of the year.
And he had a guy on base, I think, as well. Like, Sewald has gotten very lucky at times, especially with the outfielders, that we just have a lockdown defense in the outfield. And I think Brett just has the actual stats of the last outs that have all been, a lot of them have been 85 miles per hour or faster.
Yeah, like he is the closer this season. Next season, I don't see it. We have too many guys that throw what people like to see with a closer: high 90s, over 100. Justin Martinez, and I've been saying the way Justin's pitched this year, there's no doubt in my mind he's our closer next year. No doubt in my mind. But Brett, you did a lot of work on this stuff with Sewald, so the floor's yours.
Yeah, so I had some free time on Saturday while Caleb was knocking out a bunch of her schoolwork, and did some diving because, I know we were talking about having, the balance of advanced stats versus the eye test, kind of everything like that. And it made me kind of want to look into, again, I went through Baseball Savant. Every single one of his appearances this year, on every single ball in play, I wrote down the exit velocity, and I put it into 3 categories. So he has put in, I believe it was 41, maybe 40. Sorry, I do have one. Yeah. So he put 41 balls in play against him this year. 11 of them have been under 85 miles an hour. Cool. A lot of them were in the 60s and 70s, like we saw in June. And even in May when he came back, he was getting a lot of weak contact. He was really solid. That's why we're talking about the sky's not falling. But then he has a lot of decent amount of, hard hit to, kind of decently hit to 85, 95 mile an hour. He has 12 given up. And then the thing that kind of alarmed me a little bit was the amount of times he's had a ball put in play over 95 miles an hour. Obviously, some of those are like that lineouts and the Twins game. That was still an out, but that was 100 I think 108 something mile an hour off the bat. Paul Sewald has 118 or 118 LOL, 18 balls put in play at over 95 miles an hour with 12 over 100. So when he's getting hit, whether it's an out or actually in play, he's getting hit hard. And even going back to the last two save appearances against the Dodgers and now Padres, the Will Smith 2-out double was 106 miles an hour off the bat. The Freddie Freeman double was 97 miles an hour off the bat. The Teoscar Hernandez single that I originally thought was a little bleeder through the infield, 100 miles an hour off the bat. Jurickson Profar home run, 104 miles an hour off the bat. Jake Cronenworth got a walk. Manny Machado, 102 miles an hour off the bat. Obviously, we've talked about before him, just throwing stuff over the middle, kind of having it work. But then I kind of wanted to compare what we've seen from him last year in 2023 to 2024. I know it's not the same sample size. There's inning difference is very, very different right now. But it was a little concerning. His whip percentage is down over 7% from 29.3 to 21.8. His chase percentage is way down from 28.6 to 19.4. His fastball velocity has dropped almost a full mile an hour. His average exit velocity has gone up almost 5 miles an hour on him. Hitters are barreling up at almost double the rate they were last year. And, breaking down the amount of hits he's given up over 85 and 95 miles an hour, it makes sense that his hard hit rate is at 40% this year. He is, again, sky's not falling, but it's to me a little concerning seeing some of these stats like here, where we talked about it last year. We've talked about it before. He is a guy that the deceptiveness of his delivery with whatever arm slot and, pitch mix and all those other things that we saw last year, he could get away with throwing stuff right down the middle to hitters. Even in the beginning of the Dodgers start, he got away with a couple pitches to Shohei that I was like, man, dude, you're playing with fire here. And he immediately, and we have still seen him get burnt. And even Gabe was talking about it in the group chat. That extra mile an hour of difference is the difference between somebody either fouling it off or putting it in play, or a foul tip into the glove, swinging and missing right underneath it. It's not a lot, but it's still a significant amount, enough to where it's like, okay, a little bit of an alarm bell is going off. Not a major, ooey, 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 we need to fully panic. But the next time Paul Sewald gets to go out, and I was fully expecting him to go out there in game 2, knowing that he wasn't. Even today, I was like, are they going to use Paul Sewald? Because I'm glad they didn't have to use him, and they put the game out of reach. But I was kind of hoping it would be a 4-1 game just so we could see how Sewald adjusts this lineup. We'll have to wait, but I think it's definitely something to look out for whenever we do see him come in for another save opportunity.
It's going to have to be against the Braves, so I'm a little worried. I saw someone post this. Is it possible he may have re-aggravated his prior injury? I don't want to put that out there saying that's the reason, but it's very alarming that these last 2 starts were not good at all. I get Dodgers and Padres have really good. He faced the heart of their lineup in both those outings. They get paid millions of dollars just like he does to do their job, and they did their job. But just those numbers that you brought up, mainly the ones with the barrel rate and the hard hit, the hard hit one to me, that's 30% higher. Before you posted that, I didn't realize that. I'm like, oh my Lord.
Yeah, I went through just for receipts. I went through and I did literally every ball put in play. I even tracked how many whiffs he's had so far throughout the year, and it has definitely gone down a lot. He's not missing barrels anymore. It's not looking good, man. The peripherals are not looking good for Paul Sewald.
No, it is definitely not. So we end up losing game 1. Kind of a bummer. So we'll go ahead and move on to game number 2, which we did win. Brandon Pfaadt started. He was, and it's the same thing that's been happening with his last few starts. He has a low pitch count. I think he was at I think I checked. It was either the 4th or the 3rd. He had 8 balls total, and he had 30 strikes. So like he was pitching very, very well.
This is why you don't let me do live tweets.
Yes, this is exactly why we don't let you do live tweets for this right here. Here in the 5th inning, Luis Ariz gets a line drive right off it. It's either his ankle or his foot. It's really hard to tell. Now, we don't have audio on this, but on the audio, you can hear him yell as soon as it hits. Like, yeah, like that looked like that hurt by a lot. Now, after the game, they did come out and say he has a contusion, correct, Brett?
I think it was a contusion on his ankle, yeah.
Which basically means a bruise.
Yeah, it's a bone bruise specifically.
Yeah. So that was a bummer because he's been our only starter that's literally made every single start. He's been the linchpin for this. So, yeah. Yeah, this game was very weird. Very, very weird. Just want to go over real quick. Kevin Ginkel is on an absolute tear lately. Like, we have September and October Kevin Ginkel back. Has me very excited. But he pitched really well in this game. Ginkel, since May 18th, which is 19 games, his OPS to opposing batters is 520. His ERA has gone down by over 2 runs. Like, it's close to 2.5. And I never thought I'd say this. Save brought to you courtesy of Humberto Castellanos. What in the actual... I just want to talk about...
I'm sorry, you got to say it's Humberto.
Humberto Castellanos. They got the job done. It wasn't pretty. Bullpen was not great. Also, we need to talk about Ryan Thompson. Torrey, only bring him in to start an inning. Do not bring him with runners on base because his inherited runners is, I think I saw, what was it, 6 for 9? So, like,
knowing what we know now with who was and wasn't available, it makes sense that he didn't start the inning, especially the fact that he probably was saving him for the 8th inning guy. So I somewhat understand it. Like, you basically had to be like, you know what, I got to go to my guy. It's unfortunate. Like, I don't fault Torrey personally at all for that, especially, again, now knowing that Martinez and Sewald were just 100% available. I kind of understand it. But at the time, I was fully with you. I'm like, why are we not bringing him in earlier? Ryan Thompson's our 7th inning guy. But when you don't got, Paul Sewald, when you got Kevin Ginkel, who used to be your 8th inning guy, having to go in the 5th because of an injury.
I think Torrey's plan was a 4-out save. But, I mean, he got 4 outs. Thompson got 4 outs, but he ended up giving up the tying run, so we had to go into extras, and he gave – I don't even know how to say his first name. I just know how to say his last name.
Thiago?
Yeah.
Is it Thiago?
Oh, Thiago?
I've heard them say
Thiago.
it like it's a CH. I've heard every pronouncer say it's like Thiago or Thiago.
Yeah, since it's
And
Portuguese,
he-
it's probably closer to that CH sound since Portuguese. Okay. Thiago.
And he struggled. Like, he was given the opportunity to be a closer. That transition from just a normal reliever to a closer is not a flip of the switch. And a lot of people think, oh, this guy was great in the 7th and 8th. He'll be a great closer. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's all mental. Like, it's the highest of high leverage situations. And I thought it was funny when Torrey came to bring him out of the game because he basically loaded the bases, I believe. He got 1 strikeout, and you could see he was mouthing, "Let me finish." And we're all like, "Thank you, but no." And then we brought in Castellanos, and Gabe brought it up. Why not Justin Martinez? And I was thinking the same thing. And the only thing I could think of is Torrey has made him long relief when that's not him. That is not what his role should be. But because he's so good, sometimes Torrey just needs to get outs. And
He's
Justin
like a
Martinez,
utility reliever.
yeah, like he. But the thing is, when you pitch a reliever for 3 innings, he's going to be out for at least probably 3 days.
Yeah.
And then he pitched today and Sunday and got like 8 pitches in an inning. Like he was like, so yeah, that was a bummer. But right now, the thing that worries me the most is because we don't really know how bad the Fott injury is, and I really don't want it to be like super bad. Like if he misses one start, that's not that bad to me. But if they have to put him on the IL to miss multiple starts, I'm gonna be like, oh great, here goes another one. So
I would be very disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. Like we've already been bitten by the injury bug too much. We have 4 of our 5 opening day starting pitchers, like projected starting pitchers, on the IL. I know we'll even get to it later. There's some good news with 3 of them today.
Yeah,
at least some hopeful news. But it's let me tell you, I was definitely Mr. Glass half empty when I saw Fott be taken out, hit on the ankle.
Yeah, like I'm not as worried about Marte just because it's something that he's been dealing with. So they just needed to give him probably a couple of days off. He's good. It's the Fott is there's a lot of unknown there. Like, and if he goes on the IL, every single of our 5 opening, like what our rotation was supposed to be opening day, will all have been on the IL at some point.
Don't want that.
Like every team goes through it. Like we all know, and the teams that are able to come back from it and have the depth to do it tend to do well. Our starting pitching depth in the minors is just not there, where we can come back from it. So I think Marte comes back tomorrow on Monday for the opener against the Braves. I'm hoping we get some news on Fott there. So, Gabe, do you have any last thoughts for Game 2?
I was just happy to get that bounce back win, especially because they did come back and take this game from, it seems like right now the way things are going, everything is like that meme, like we're back, it's Jover. Like all these games have felt like life and death, and being a division rival, the way they were able to take this game in the late innings, which is something that we haven't seen throughout this whole year, which is literally just the early backs and then they turn to light down Diamondbacks. But seeing them being able to score late in games the way they have, they've hit some home runs, but they're also not relying on them. They're getting a lot of singles. They're running a lot more. They're making the teams nervous around the bases. Like they're making them make mistakes again, which is something that I've been wanting to see from them.
Yeah. Brett, any parting thoughts for Game 2? And we're never going to have you do live tweets again?
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't know, I was doing live tweets because Gabe, Brandon, Josh, all busy, and I was like, well, I'm just chilling here. I can do it. And put out the tweet, Brandon Fott threw 4, 1, 2, 3, not out of the waters yet, just looking good. And very next inning got hurt, and I was like, cool, I am never doing this again. But yeah, the only thing I got about Game 2, man, is Ginky's back. Ginky and his stinky is kinky once again. My goodness, I'm so happy that because we were, especially now, maybe there's probably one player that's touching a bad baseball in the clubhouse, and it's just doing the Monstars thing from Space Jam and just sapping their energy, whether it's a closing pitcher, relief pitcher, or Corbin Carroll, some other position player. And looks like Kevin Ginkel has his mojo back, and dude, I'm excited for what we can see. If Paul Sewell can figure it out, the rest of his bullpen with Kevin Ginkel in the shape that he was last year and that he's getting back into, and Justin Martinez. Ooh, oh boy, that's going to be nice.
Josh, you know what this means. She has to watch every single game. Literally.
Plenty of time here soon.
Yeah, she is. She is. So, series is tied 1-1 after 2. Game 3, we end up winning 9-1. We're back to 500, ladies and gentlemen. Don't fall back under, please. I beg you. Please do not. Like, you've done this like twice. You did it against the Phillies, and then the next game, you got your just butts whooped. This stat blew my mind. Corbin hadn't had a homer since May 7th. And you want to know when his first home run was? It was like the second week of the season. Literally 60 days in between home runs. That blows my mind that he is not Now, I was impressed. It was a fastball above the zone, line drive home run. So I think he has figured out that issue, but now people are attacking him low and away with off speed. So now he has to learn to lay off of those. But Ryan Nelson, again, on the road, was literally our only starter, and I'll put starter in quotes, because to go more than 4 2/3. He did go 5 against the Dodgers, but he technically didn't start. But he was phenomenal in the start. 6 2/3, 3 hits, 1 run, 5 Ks on 87 pitches, 9 whiffs. That to me is the big one. Is he's getting it's if he can truly develop that cutter as a secondary pitch, I feel a lot more comfortable with him in the rotation. Because we know that his four-seamer is very good. Like, there's no disputing that. He's got to learn to also have confidence in that cutter. And also, is Gino finally here? Had a fantastic day. 3 for 4. Had a home run. Yes, it's technically a home run. It barely got out, but it's still a home run. He had 5 RBI on the day, that 2-run homer, and then a huge bases clearing double in the 9th inning to really put the game away. I think Gino's player of the game for this one. It feels really weird to say, but Gino drove in 5 of the 9. Also, his last 7 games, he's hitting .365 with a .500 on base with a .636 OPS. Like, it took a while. It took way too long for my taste, but hopefully Gino can contribute. Now, Gabe, both of these guys deserved the praise that we are giving them in this game, but which one to you was more important that helped the outcome of the game?
I would say in this case, Ryan Nelson, just because of the complete crap shows that we had on Friday and Saturday with the starting pitching and the bullpen. Just the fact that he was able to go out there and just in about almost 7 innings, so 6 2/3, just give up 1 run. Like, after that, the 1 home run he gave up to Profar, he allowed 2 base runners in 6 1/3 inning, I believe. He was pretty damn dominant today. Like, there truly wasn't a time where you were like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And he just kept mowing them down, kept doing his work, punch his clock in, punch his clock out. Like, he did something that the rest of this rotation couldn't do, including Zach Gallen. And he just looked really good and really confident out there. And like we said, we talk about him being so hot and cold. Well, he's been hot these last 2 games. Like, combined, I think he has just about 13 innings. And in that time, he's allowed 2 runs in 13 innings. Like, you can't really say that about most of the starting staff. And he's just, I don't know if whatever issues he's had before are getting worked out, or is just, like we've said, he's going to have, if he has a start again, he probably won't have a start against the Blue Jays, but, or the Blue Jays or the Braves, whichever one. Like, with the way his track record is going, he's probably going to go up, 5 runs in 3 innings or something like that against them. And I hope he doesn't, but, I hope he goes 5 innings and allows 1 run again. But I think he's the one who deserves the flowers, because Gino, as great as he's been, also, if you take away his 5 RBI, they still win 4-1, thanks to Ryan's contribution. But like I said, it's just the way that we used Humberto Castellanos yesterday to get a save. Like, that's how depleted this bullpen has been. And Ryan was able to come out and use just 3 guys out of the bullpen, keep it a relatively simple game. Obviously, everything, they put up 5 runs in the 9th, but they're still up 4-1 at that point. Like, they still looked really good. But Brian, I think, is the one who deserves flowers.
Yeah, definitely. Chrome Earth here asks a question. Does anyone have an idea what Toy was heated about talking to the... I believe there was a play he wanted to challenge, and they said no. I believe that's what it was, if I remember listening to on the broadcast. So, Torrey, when he gets heated, I love the passion. Like, you know that that's the thing with fans. Like, they're like, fire Torrey. Clubhouse loves him. The organization loves him. He got you to the World Series. We would have to be Oakland A's record bad for them to fire him. He's not going anywhere, everyone. Just get used to it. Usually when you make the World Series, you get like a 3-year grace period, unless it's just absolutely awful. But Brett, who is your, I guess, savior in this one? Is it Nelly or is it Gino?
I'm gonna have to go with Samwise Nelly. He looked at the offense and he was like, you know what? You guys are carrying the one ring. You're carrying the load too much lately. Share the load. And he did. You know, he took, like, again, 6 2/3. He's had his struggles this year. Sorry, I had to get the Lord of the Rings joke in there. He's had his, jokes this or his struggles this year. Gabe even does bring up a good point in his 2 appearances now, Dodgers and against the Padres. 1 run each of them across 11 2/3. And he still has his blow-up starts or blow-up games against the Twins, back up against the Padres the last time, which is kind of why it was nice to see him bounce back and show that maybe it might have been a fluke. But he's had more consistent starts this year with 4 runs or less. Like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. He had 4 starts this year out of his entire appearances where he's given up more than 4 runs. Some of them out of the bullpen, but most of them starting. Yes, starting pitcher is still giving up 4 runs, not the greatest. But I feel like with how much we've kind of talked about his negativities and his bad sides, I feel like what he did today definitely has earned him the spotlight of the game because, like Gabe said, you can still take away Gino's, RBIs. And yes, they were huge. And maybe the game doesn't end the way it does without Gino getting that clutch home run off of Cease. Like you don't know, because maybe the Padres bring in a more elite reliever and the D-backs don't add more insurance runs. Like, I'm not saying Gino wasn't very clutch, but I feel like I still want to see more from him. But Nelly has, I think, quietly had a better overall season than we might give him credit for. And I'll be even the first one to admit it, because we've talked about it, I think, one of the last times, but it's or before the Dodgers are we giving up on him? Is he even a starting pitcher? And you're like, no, he's not a good starting pitcher. And I was like, we kind of all agreed, hey, as a reliever, he's really good. He's got the stuff to be good there. And he showed us at least the last 2 and maybe even consistently over the year, he can still do a decently good job of limiting damage. I think it's just we're a little too, we're too hurt. We've been conditioned to pain too much as Diamondbacks fans to go through, especially the last few years, just inconsistent starters. Even this year, especially, we've had way too many starters go 3-4 innings at most and give up so many runs to where it puts the game just away where the offense can't even show up. But with what Nelson's done this year overall, and especially today, I definitely want to give him his crown and his flowers.
They act like 2 legends can't coexist.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, Nelson has a 5.8 ERA at this point. He has a clean inning in his next start. He's under 4. Yeah. Under 5. And
I'd be okay with that. To be honest, if he goes 5, I'm fine with that. That's what we really need right now. Is we need a good week or 2 of starters going deep into games. 5, at least 5. Gallen has to, for me, I think Gallen feels like he has to go 7 each time. And hopefully offense can show up to support these guys, because Fod has done that consistently, has gone deep into games, but offense just doesn't want to help him with run support. But speaking of offense, Geraldo Perdomo, y'all, he may not be the most flashy, most offensive juggernaut of a shortstop, but something he does things that just you can't quantify, you can't explain. He does things that don't show up in the box score. And we kind of talked about it when him and Alec were coming back. We're like, is this team going to be different? They are. It may like to the outside world, to the outside of this fan base, it may not look like it, but this team is just different offensively with him back. So he came back on June 11th. During that time, the Diamondbacks have the third highest batting average. Actually, I think I actually did this, ran this wrong. But whatever. It's still because I just looked at the actual games on there, and that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, okay. Hey, if you want, well, when me and Gabe are giving our thoughts, you want to go and get that really quick? I'm curious.
But it's still true because I saw it as a graphic on the game today, and that's what triggered me to do the research. Since he came back, in terms of just offensive production of like runs scored, batting average, the Diamondbacks are third since June 11th. So like he's doing things that just, I don't know if it's in the clubhouse or full count Jerry, because I swear he always has at least 4 or 5 pitches every time he's at the plate. He had an 11 pitch at bat against Cease today. Yeah, he struck out, but he kept fouling off. He was being a pest. So, Gabe, you have brought it up multiple times that you feel like them coming back would help, but it wouldn't be like getting like a all-star quality player that would immediately fix this offense. But I think it's been a slow grind to see that this offense is different with them back.
Yeah, and I said that because, like I said, they're not Mookie Betts. They're not Freddie Freeman. Like their career combined 220 hitters. Like there's not, you can't expect them to carry the load, which is my point. You can't expect them to come back and say, like if you bring back Mookie Betts, you're suddenly like, all right, we're going to get a whole bunch more home runs. There's going to be a lot more offense. With Alec and Perdomo, it's going to be these guys are going to grind. They are going to, be in a lot of the comebacks, but they're not going to be the sole responsible ones because they're not going to be the main ones driving in the runs, although they were recently with Perdomo with a couple RBI and then Alec with the grand slam. But again, it's just they start it, but they need people to end it. They need Carroll to drive him in. They need Perdomo to Cattell. They need Walker, Gurriel, Moreno, whoever's in that 1, 2, 3, and 4 spot. They need to do their jobs as well. And so far, they have been doing, especially Walker. He's just, the last week or so, I think he has like 12 RBI or something crazy like that. Like he's just been on a tear. And at this point, too, even Gino, the last week or so, he's been on a tear. He's been racking up the RBI. Even Carroll, he hasn't been hitting that much, but he has been driving more runs in. And that's kind of what I wanted to see. I wanted to see what this team was once they come back, so then we know what moves to make at the deadline. And so far, they've looked very, very good. They scored a lot more runs. My only issue is still the inconsistency with Corbin and Gino. Gino seems to be coming around, which is something that we've been asking for from him, is signs of progress. He hadn't had any single signs of progress until this last week or so. And this is who he might be in the second half of this season, because if it is, then we don't need to look for a third base. We just need to look for a left-handed reliever. And as of right now, we have a couple guys in the minors and even up at the majors that we probably could use as trade chips to bring over an elite left-handed reliever, and maybe even look for a closing type.
Tanner Scott, anybody?
Tanner Scott.
I don't hate that idea now that you bring it up, because we know the Marlins are going to sell every piece they have, and
we're going to be in a bidding war, which it's going to suck.
I don't feel it would cost a lot for Tanner Scott.
I don't know. Here, let me look up Tanner Scott's stats really quick.
For Tanner Scott, I honestly think we probably would have to give up either or Blaze and Jake.
Tanner Scott is a 2.6 WAR already this year as a reliever. Just so you know.
Yeah, he's also an all-star. He is the Marlins representative. So those stats I pulled up, they are correct. It's the games that threw me off. I guess they're adding all the players in those games if you add all those games together. That's what threw me off, because I reran it, and because there's total games and then there's just games played. So, but still, like it. So during that span, it's 23 total games. They have the third highest average at 274, 213 hits, 41 doubles, 30 homers. They're averaging 5 runs a game. The steals is a little low. Steals is a little low because it's only at 16 in over a month. I would like us to do that more if we can. It's fine if we don't. Like it's completely fine. But I don't think a lot of people realize how much better this offense has been since we got Domo back. Like it is absolutely amazing. But Brett, we know how big of a Jerry fan you are. Like Brett is a big Jerry fan. I kind of want to throw you a curveball here because Bijol brings it up. What do you do with Domo when Lawler's ready? Do you keep? For me, what decides this is who's better defensively. Like, who can play the true shortstop? Is it Lawler or is it Domo? Whoever takes it, move the other guy to third. Jerry has earned that to be the shortstop of the future right now.
So I fully agree. I think with Jerry's comfortable enough at short. We're comfortable enough with him. Like, he's the infield leader. He deserves to get that Nick Ahmed kind of extension that we gave him. Domo deserves an extension, I'd say, in the next year or two, just to lock him up, have him he's still so young. He can still develop even more. That's what's crazy. To where lock him up. Lawler's a good enough athlete. I believe even when we drafted him, there were even questions he could just probably be a corner fielder. I'd love that. Third baseman is not locked down at all in our future. We do not have a guaranteed third baseman in 2025 and beyond. So if Lawler can slide over to third, I know they're even trying him out there in the complex league, and I believe he's about to be back to Reno for more games because I believe he was hurt again after he got back. So if he could adjust to third and be just fine there because he's a stud at short, I'd be okay with that fully. I'm as long as we keep Lawler. And again, this is just the hype. I'm not saying that he's going to be the next Lawler's going to be the next thing, but Perdomo's shown us at least a little more
Yes.
to where Perdomo deserves to have the contract to stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Padres. Yeah, the 73 shortstops. They just have a shortstop as pitcher. They draft a shortstop. Hey, you're a two-way player, right? He's like, yeah, I'm a pitcher mostly. Nope, you're a shortstop.
Yeah. So I did grab it, like Brett said. Here is Tanner Scott's baseball savant page. That is a beautiful baseball savant page, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing he's low on is something you want him low on, and that's his walk percentage.
I think that's still, he is I think that means he's just wild. He does walk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he also has experience as a closer. And if you look at that whip, his whip has been pretty good consistently. So I wouldn't mind kicking the tires on that because I think we need at least 2 more. If they decide they want to be buyers or what, they need to. I think they need to decide to get at least 2 more pitching arms, preferably I want a lefty more than anything because I don't feel comfortable relying on Joe Mantiply as our only lefty out of the pen. I just don't. He's been pretty consistent lately, which is fine. It's great. I would rather have another one out there. But no, we end up winning the series, our second straight series against a divisional opponent. We're back at 500. We're only 2 games out of that final wild card. So very exciting. Some other topics, and we're going to quickly go over it because I will rant for too long, and we can't stay too long. As of right now, Christian Walker did not make the All-Star team. Pete Alonso did because you have the 1 representative per team, and I'm pretty sure the only reason they picked him is because they want him in the home run derby. I think that is pretty much why, because he is not the most deserving. He's the 4th most deserving player on his team. I still feel like he makes it because right now Bryce Harper's on there. Mookie Betts is on the All-Stars, so we know there's going to be injury alternate replacements. I just hope that Walker is one of the first ones, especially if Bryce Harper ends up not being able to play. If Walker's not the first one as his replacement, I'm gonna be like, what are we doing here?
Also, why do we make such a big deal about Pete Alonso going to the home run derby? He hasn't won it in 5 years. Like, why the hell do they keep advertising so much and then they have him there, like, meditating in the
I
back?
thought he won it back to back in 19 and 20 or 19 and 20. Oh, they didn't do
No,
it 20.
I think he just won it
Right,
for his
20.
rookie year.
No, he
just
won 2 in
his
a
rookie
row.
year in a row. I thought he was just the 2019 his rookie year. I think that's the only time he won it. But they make such a big deal out of it. They have him like with the cameras, meditating and like sleeping inside of the dugout or whatever.
Vladdy Jr. won at 23, Soto won at 22, Alonso won at 21 in Coors Field, and then he also won it in 19.
19, yeah.
rookie.
So what? Then 2 years and people still make a big deal out of it. I'm like, we have better home run hitters, although Alec Boehm, like, what the hell? All right.
He's gonna have so many line drives. I mean, left field's not that far, so maybe he can.
Derby champion.
So yeah. I'm hoping because outside of Walker, no one else, in my opinion, is really worthy of it. I know some people wanted Ryan Thompson for a bit, but I'm like, they very rarely do non-closer relievers. And the only reason they did it for the Phillies, 2 of them, is because they have the best record in baseball.
Yeah,
like they do it every there's one team that always gets like 5 or 6
because they had last year.
So yeah, it's just something that happens. So hopefully Walker plays. If he doesn't, it's fine. He gets a couple of days off, which he may need. But this next one, I'm really excited for it. Gabe, correct me if I don't say this right. Is it Yilber Diaz?
I guess it would be Yilber. So like Gilbert's.
Yeah. So
is he like Dominican or Puerto Rican or something? Because the way they do it, they phonetically spell the names out, so that you're going to see a lot of Yason, but with the Y and stuff like that. So it should be Gilbert. So I'm guessing the parents are Gilberts, and then they're like the name, so then they call him Gilbert.
He's from Venezuela.
Venezuela, yeah.
But
most Latino names are spelled phonetically, so Gilbert, yeah, Gilbert.
Again, the transaction is not official, but he was seen in the clubhouse today. So he's most likely, because we have a TBD for our starter tomorrow, game 1 against the Braves. So it's most likely him. I'm very excited to watch him pitch. Again, wins and losses, not a pitcher stat. I really don't care. Yeah, he's 4-8 with a 4.08 ERA, but 76 innings, 105 strikeouts with only 38 walks. That is a beautiful rate. As Brett had literally put in our document, it is a beautiful. It is a beautiful with a starter. As long as walks is like half of their innings pitched, that's not bad. Anything higher than that, I get a little worried. But that K, like way over his innings pitched. So that is, yeah, I'm very excited. It's our second really bringing up a guy in the last week, so I'm really hoping he fares better than Christian Mena did. But Mena, I think it was all nerves, because once he settled in, he pitched pretty well.
Also, the Braves are no slouches, but I think the Braves lineup, again, I think they're more of a home run, but again, the Braves lineup at home at least versus the Dodgers in LA against like Shohei, and like it's a little different, I think.
Yeah. And then
Miguel Castro doesn't come in. As long as Miguel Castro doesn't come in the games. It should be an easy 4-game sweep of the Braves.
Okay.
Hey, they could have swept him twice. They had him twice last year with the sweep.
Yes.
And Miguel Castro ruined both sweeps.
And this year, don't forget, we could have also probably swept them earlier this year. Or at least 1, 2, 3. Year.
We could be 9-0 against them, but
But the big news that we got is that Merrill and Erod threw flat grounds on Saturday, which is a huge step. Like for me, that is a big step for us to getting Merrill and Erod back. because once they do that, they can maybe start pitching off of a mound, and who knows, we might actually see Erod pitch this season.
He's real?
No, not until he pitches in a major league regular season game is he real for me. So, Gabe, you got any thoughts you want to talk about with Diaz or Merrill and Erod?
I think we're very, very close to having this team back to what it was originally constructed, which I'm excited to see. Like, again, we don't want the trade deadline moves to be, we got Merrill Kelly and Erod back. Like, we want actual real moves from this team, but having them back is going to give this team a lot more confidence. We're at 500 right now. Depending on how this series go, we could be buyers, but as long as we're around 500 before we get these guys, and I think with everyone healthy, with the way they've been playing, I think they're starting to look like the threat that they were last year.
Yeah, very, very excited. Brett, any thoughts you want to add with Diaz and Merrill and Erod?
So Merrill, Diaz, and Erod, very exciting. The only thought I have is maybe not on that. It's just on the next series we have coming up. Of course, the Braves and their magic, they fixed Chris Sale, 11-3 on the year with a 2.71 ERA. So game one's going to be tough. Charlie Morton has a 3.96 ERA this year. So that one, it's kind of a 50-50. Do the D-backs show up? Do the D-backs, put up like 7 on them? You never know. And then game 3 is going to go up against Max Fried, 7-4, 3.18 ERA in the year. Don't know who's the starter on that game yet. It's not decided yet. But this is definitely going to be, if we can squeak 2 out of 3 in this series, there's 4. I'm sorry. And then on
split, if we split, that is a huge win for me.
So
a massive win.
Yeah. So that makes it even better. To where if we can just go out of this, like we're facing Schwellenbach again, he's still got a better ERA than most of the Diamondbacks starters. So we can't just go off ERA alone. But if we can at least get them on there too, like Morton and Schwellenbach, and then try to steal one of those against Fried or Sale, dude, I will we're fully back. We're back. We've never been more back.
Exactly. So they're playing really, really well right now. I don't feel like I have to use it's not in here. I'll have to find it again. That GIF of like you click on, hitting's working, bullpen's broken. Hitting and bullpen are working. But I feel right now all 3 are clicking for the most part. Yes, Sewald has had the blow up, but the rest of the bullpen has pitched very, very well.
And again, the Padres are, I believe, second best team in the league in like clutch situations. And even in the game 2, I don't think they were defeated this year in the extra inning games yet. So like the Padres, the Padres are a really like clutch team this year in situations like that. Like they do not go down without a fight. So again, it's not an excuse, but it kind of makes sense a little bit. Like, Paul was already shaken up a little bit. They're insane. We don't play there too well, but we still came out of it after that fucking rough game 1 and 1-2. So hey, you know what? We've never been more back, baby.
Yeah. As Coach Evan is asking, I don't believe we've gotten any news other than Torrey saying he's basically optimistic that Marte plays on Monday.
He was apparently available off the bench today. Like, I know he said that hopefully
he said that with both days, by the way.
I know he said it with both days. I think today would have been a little different if it was like a 1-1 game in the 8th or 9th or a 2-1 game and there's a situation to bring him in. I think Cattell, they would have been like, cool, bring him in. But the fact that they kind of blew it out in the 9th, I think it was just an extra like, hey, you know what, Cattell, you're probably good, but guess what? Here's your gift for you, an extra day off.
So, good series. Just keep it rolling, guys. Like, I really want to see us get on like a good win streak, like a 6 or 7 in a row. I think would, but just like Gabe said, stay around 500. If you can stay around 500 for the next month, like in August going to September, we could see what we saw last year. Get hot, going into the playoffs. You never know what could happen. We do appreciate everyone for tuning in here on YouTube, here at D-Backs Dispatch. We are part of AZ Snake Pit, so go ahead and make sure to check them out. They do a lot of great articles over there. They do previews, they do game recaps. We are so appreciative of being a part of the group. Make sure to go ahead and give us a follow on Twitter. Until next time.